Hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we're on episode 6 of Sasaki to Miyano, or Sasaki and Miyano. And, so Sasaki's confessed. It's out there. It's out there in the open. He's confessed. He told Miyano that he loved him, and I am happy he's told Miyano that he can take his time with his reply. So now, the ball's in Miyano's court. Miyano's got to deal with his emotions, like, what am I going to do with this information that I'm processing? He did the old phone call BL move. It's great. Told Miyano that he liked him not because of just his face, but because of all of him. And now Hirano knows. So Hirano knows that Sasaki likes Miyano. Miyano has to deal with it. Sasaki's like, whoop, got that out there. And as far as we know, Oga doesn't know any better. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm recording this a little bit ahead, and they just announced today that Funimation is merging with Crunchyroll, which is really exciting. But despite that, I'm still probably not going to use Funimation or Crunchyroll to watch this series because we're going to be using September Scanlations, courtesy of Seth Mary, because I really like this translation. And as some of you have noted, it's a nice different translation than what you see on Crunchyroll or Funimation. So I want to support them, and I really like this translation, so I'm going to keep using it. So thank you, Seth Mary. Thank you, September Scanlations, for giving me these files. And plus, there's no lag, so yay. I will never... Y'all, the last couple episodes of series I've watched with the lag from Funimation, I'm glad they're moving over to Crunchyroll because it's been rough. So, with that being said, I am really excited to dive into this episode. I don't think it has an after credit scene. I'm pretty sure it does not. I think episode 5 had an after credit scene, but I don't think episode 6 does. But I've not heard about 7 or 8 yet. As I'm recording this, episode 8 came out last week on for the series. So I don't know if those series have after credit scenes. I'm assuming somebody on Patreon will let me know. But we're going to start episode 6. I'm pretty excited. I'm curious to know what Miyano is going to do. Like, how is he going to handle this? Because he spent the last couple episodes trying to come to grips with the fact that he might be attracted to Sasaki, and this is something that's foreign to him. So I'm curious to know how he's going to deal with all of it. But I guess that's what we'll find out, won't we? So we're going to start Sasaki and Miyano, episode 6. We're halfway through the season. Holy cow, we're halfway through. Ooh, that just hit me. But we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay. So, Interesting. This episode went in a lot of different ways I didn't think it was going to go. Okay. So, lots of different directions. I'm glad Miyano said something. Like I said in the ED during the reaction, I'm glad he said something, because it's been nearly a year since they've met. That's kind of crazy to me, right? Because time passes so quickly in this series. It's already been, we are halfway through the season, which is crazy to think, right? We are halfway through the season. And so with this episode, we're at the halfway point. And I think this is a really good halfway point. I was going to comment about it as the reaction started, and then I got distracted by the episode. But I think this is a fitting halfway point for the season, because Sasaki's got his feelings out there. Miyano knows them. And this was Miyano's initial response in this episode, which is basically, I'm still trying to figure it out, right? He's still trying to figure out the best way to answer Sasaki. And I like that Miyano is taking his time. And he doesn't, because when he started to give that response at the beginning of it, I was like, no, that's not really what you think, is it? And then he started being like, oh, I don't really think this. And I'm like, then just tell him you don't think that. And then at the end, he kind of does the midway point. He's like, look, I'm not decided, and I don't want you to think a certain thing. So let's just keep it like it is for now. And then we'll go from there. And I'm like, okay, well, so we're at the halfway point, which I feel like with a lot of BL series, actually, time moves very quickly. In a lot of series that are non-romance, I feel like in a romance genre, time usually moves in bigger increments. Like you have I think of Seaside Stranger, where they have like years pass and they see each other again, and then months pass in parts of it. I think of Given, where weeks and months have passed. Like in a lot of non-romance series that are just slice of life, you may see things like on a day-to-day basis. But I feel like in romance series, BL or otherwise, time seems to move in bigger increments and quicker because it's establishing the relationship between characters. And to make it realistic, if we were at episode 6 and like 2 weeks had passed and Sasaki was like, I love you, Miyano, it wouldn't feel as genuine or as earned as in this series. By this episode, by halfway through season 1, an entire year has passed since they've known one another. And so that relationship has slowly developed organically and it feels more realistic, right? And I like that a lot about this series, that it takes its time, but at the same time, it allows us, the audience, to see that time has passed. These characters aren't just coming to these conclusions in a split-second decision. They've had time to think about this. So, interesting. Very interesting. So I don't know exactly when Sasaki's birthday is. It seems like it's a summer birthday. That's what it seems like. But I don't know. So lots of interesting discussions about relationships in this episode. A lot of interesting discussions. And so in this episode too, like we start out right off the bat, I was a little confused at first because this series, what it does is it shows us like around the city, like just normal people that are not our main characters. Like that little kid down there waving his mom kind of looked like a young Kurosawa for a second. And for a moment, I thought we were going to have like a flashback of how Kurosawa met his girlfriend, which we end up finding about that later. But ironically enough, coincidentally. But I thought when we saw this kid waving to the mom, I thought for a second it was like Miyano or Kurosawa as kids and we were going to get a flashback, but that's not the case. And then there's several characters, like we see this guy like yawning in the car and it's going to make me yawn. And the people on the train. That's what it does. Anytime you see somebody yawn, it makes you yawn too. But yeah, they're just random characters. There was like one guy taking a test at one point in this episode that I was like, where's the manga on him? It's like, they drew him really well. But yeah, so again, we get all the random people. And I like that instantly Miyano and Sasaki, it's not awkward. Right? It's not that forced, awkward melodrama. They just instantly see each other again and he's like, oh, I feel better. I'm not sick anymore. I got some rest and it's fine. And Sasaki's super patient. Sasaki told him, he's like, I'm going to give you time to think about this and get back to me. Take your time. I'm fine. And I think that has something to do with what we find out about Saki and his sexuality later. I think that is kind of part of it, but we'll get to that. And I'm glad that Miyano's been trying to figure out this entire time. Like, it's been nearly a year. He's like, wow, you really got on this early train, huh? And Sasaki's like, now that he's come out in the open and said that he loves Miyano, he's like, no, just be completely blunt. He's like, no, I want to spend more time with you. That's why I'm getting on the train early. It's no other reason. It's not for my health. And so I was like, So I'm glad we finally get that. And, of course, then he admits that he's being tutored by Hirano. He's made a contract with the devil to get a good score on this test. I hope it worked out. But I love in this episode that Sasaki is like trying to take the interests that have started between him and Miyano and expand upon them. He's like, okay, we started this conversation about BL manga, but let's talk about anime now. Let's talk about other things. Like, it takes the conversation and it expands it further. And when you're in a relationship with someone, that's what you do. You expand upon it and it leads to other things. And again, Miyano is so self-conscious about this love of BL that he's like, you watched a BL anime at home? And I'm trying to think which one he would be talking about. And he's like, oh, it just happened to be on when I turned on the TV. And Miyano's like, did anyone else see it? And he looks so serious. I am a little bit sad that Miyano feels so strongly that you have to be like under the covers and in a closed room to read BL or watch it. I feel a little sad about that because it's Miyano having to limit things that he loves and not, openly talk about them because he's afraid of being judged. And that's sad. That's sad that he thinks that Sasaki needs to do the same. Sasaki's like, I don't care. He's like, my family was asleep, so they weren't watching it too. He's like, I never even realized they made BL anime. It's like, oh, honey. And he's like, I wonder if there's some live action ones too. And then Miyano, of course, is just sitting here like in awe of him and goes back to his words of, you can give a response whenever you want to. I just wanted you to think it over. So it makes sense later why Sasaki is so happy about Miyano's response, because it shows Miyano is actually taking it seriously. He's not just, which that would be the worst thing if you confess to someone and then they just brushed it off and you're like, because this is very serious to Sasaki. He's like, I'm pouring my heart out here and I'm going to be patient with you and wait for an answer, but it's obvious he's happy that Miyano's actually even mulling it over to begin with. Right? And so Sasaki is going on, and Miyano zones out. And he's like, but I think it's kind of weird. And then he's like, I'm not used to seeing that kind of thing in action. And yeah, I love that Miyano's like, yeah, there can be some awkward scenes. It's like, which BL anime were you watching? And he's like, it was kind of a shock. And his face, his surprise face, you can tell in that moment that Sasaki's thinking, like, it was kind of shocking seeing it actually play out in live action. Like, would I do that with someone else? Like, it seemed like Sasaki was sort of treading the waters and being like, ha ha ha, these guys making out and doing stuff. Be something if we were doing that, huh? Like, it seemed like he was just putting it out there to see what Miyano's response would be. And he's like, I know the feeling. And that's what he leaves it as, right? And then they go on talking. He's like, he always listens to whatever I have to say. And so I also want to put into a lot of thought into my response. He's like, yeah. He's like, Sasaki's given me the time of day and been really courteous to me. So I don't want to just brush this off and answer quickly and hastily. I want to think about it. I don't want to just reject him because he's a guy. I don't want to instantly like not be open-minded. And he says, I've only ever liked girls. So yeah, this is again, Miyake questioning his whole, or Miyano, not Miyake. The dual, the couple name is Miyake. It's Miyano and Sasaki. But yeah, Miyano, his sexuality, he's thought this whole time that he's been straight and only liked girls. And so this is something new to him. And he's like, I don't want to be narrow-minded and completely shove it out. But at the same time, it's like, this is a big leap for him. And he's like, of course I like him as a senpai, but how am I supposed to really think about this? Like, he doesn't know how to view him romantically. He's like, I think he's cute at times. I like him, but what is this? You know? And Sasaki, who has no clue what's going on in Miyano's head, brings it back to Hirano and saying he has to get the 80 or higher on the test. In return, yeah, because Hirano's like, I made this. You're going to do well in this test, darn it. I took the time to make you this study card. You're gonna do good on it. And then Miyano asking, what does it mean to be in love with someone? And I feel like that's what he's got to come to terms with, is what does it mean to be in love with someone? Like, what? Because Miyano's never been in love. He's read lots of Boys Love, and he's read Boys Life and all these BL series, but he's never been in love. So he's like, how can I give Sasaki a response when I don't even know if maybe I'm in love or not? And so I feel like Ogasawa has to come into this conversation soon, because we got Kurosawa's view of it, and it seems like Kurosawa and Ogasawa, them and Ogasawara and Kurosawa are on totally different spectrums with their girlfriends. And so I feel like for Miyano to make a well-rounded decision, he needs to go back and talk to Ogasawara at some point. Now, whether or not that happens next episode or whenever, I just feel like he's not going to be able... He's trying to figure out what it means to be in love. Kurosawa is clearly in love with his girlfriend. Clearly. But I want to hear him talk to Ogasawara about his girlfriend, and maybe talk to Ogasawara's girlfriend about it. I want to hear him get multiple perspectives about that. It doesn't seem like Tashiro is dating anyone or has been in love either, so he's not going to be much help in this. But yeah, so going back to this, they find out that it is Sasaki's birthday. So it's Sasaki's birthday's in the summer, and they have to turn in their future chart, which of course we're planning this around the same time as Miyano is choosing his future path. Thematically and symbolically, we're just going to tie that all together. But I have to say, Kurosawa, he's something in this episode, right? I like his little mint green sweater vest and everything, but he reminds me of Shimazuki from Given, which is Hiragi's boyfriend. And so, which Tashiro kind of has the Hiragi dyed hair thing going on, only it's the roots are more grown out. But Kurosawa, his undying loyalty to his girlfriend and his ceaseless love reminds me a lot of Shimazuki, which we'll talk about here. But yeah, and I like that Miyano has this debate of what to do for Sasaki's birthday. Because, yeah, and Kurosawa's like, well, why wouldn't you celebrate his birthday? He's been looking out for you. You guys are like really close friends. Why wouldn't you? And then Tashiro kind of adds to it saying, well, are you giving the senpai anything, Kurosawa, for his birthday? And Kurosawa's like, me? I vowed to never give a gift to anyone but my girlfriend. Head over heels. Seriously. Oh my god. And Tasha was like, what a loser. And he's like, I get that she's cute, but doesn't your girlfriend ever tell you to cut it out? Like, doesn't she get tired of you, like, worshiping her? And his response, quite often. I love that he's so doting and, like, stage 5 clinger with his girlfriend. His girlfriend's like, you can cut that out. It's not that big of a deal. But he's like, no, she deserves. And I love that as soon as he says quite often, he, like, instantly, like, brings the sandwich into focus. And Tashiro's like, if she told you to stop, that means to fix that side of you. Like, she's probably being serious. And he's like, I'm actually holding back, you realize. And Tashiro's like, what? Excuse me? He's like, it's not something I can actively change, but I'll explain it to you. And then Tashiro's like, yeah, I want to know what this means. And Miyano's like, no, you don't understand. He's just using it as an excuse to brag about his girlfriend, so you need to let him alone. Oh my God. Again, Shima Suzuki reminds me totally of him and Hiragi, because he's like, I'm going to be totally obsessed and it's perfectly fine. But yeah, so we get all these people like in the room chatting while they're eating lunch. And he said the first time he met his girlfriend was in the hospital. And then while he's giving this origin story of him and his girlfriend, I like that Miyano goes through this, it's kind of a hard place that he's in during this part of the episode. Because when you think about it, he's like, well, friends would wish each other happy birthday, but we're kind of more than friends, right? So we're more than friends, but what should I do for him? Because he's writing a really delicate line here. He's like, he's kind of waiting for me to give him a response, so I wonder if it's even okay for me to do something. Because yeah, it's like if he throws him a surprise party or something, or gets him a big gift, it's going to make it seem like he does love Sasaki and that's his response, but Miyano doesn't know his response yet, so he's like, how do I wish him happy birthday and get him something he'll like without giving him the impression, without leading him on, right? That's kind of what he's trying to figure out. And that's a really good question. That's a hard line to ride. He's like, I mean, he has helped me out quite a lot. Plus, I don't want to try to ignore what I know might be true. And then while he's having this, like, crisis in his head, Kurosawa's like, she couldn't go on our school trip. So I went along with the rest of our group to visit and bring souvenirs. We were classmates, but that was the first time I'd ever really spoken to her. And he's so happy when he's telling the story. Like, Kurosawa's so, like, happy recounting it. Like, it's a really good memory. She was so cute when she smiled. That's what made me fall for her. It made me realize that my entire existence was just for her sake. He's like hook, line, and sinker. And Tasha was like, your entire existence? This got super serious. I love it, though. I love this. And then meanwhile, Miyano's like done with his lunch. And then I love that Tasha was like, did I seriously waste my whole afternoon break listening to you gush about your girlfriend? And Kurosawa was like, yep. Miyano was like, I warned you. It was bad. And his little laugh, ha ha ha. That was a great laugh. I loved it. Miyano was like, I warned you. So yeah, I love that these suckers match Tashiro's hair, like the Neapolitan suckers. I love it. And he's like, oh, Sasaki was eating one of those. And it's the Neapolitan suckers. Nice. I'm guessing those are vanilla, because if they're Neapolitan, he gave Sasaki a pink one, which I'm assuming was strawberry. So that's probably either chocolate or vanilla. Could be either one. And then, yeah, I like that Tasha was like, well, fundraise to buy lollipops. And that's a really good transition from that into the lollipop transition. So, no, it's Neapolitan flavor and pudding flavor. Oh, okay. So the Neapolitan is the one that he got Sasaki, and it's the strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla one. And then the pudding flavor was the one that Tashiro had. Because the hair, it looks like pudding. Okay, that makes sense. Which one's your flavor? So he offers to get Sasaki the other one. Okay. All right. And then we cut to the next morning. Like the time transition of this. And people are just passed out sleeping on the train. I like how realistic it is. But we have the doors opening up. And then there is Sasaki coming in. And so, yeah, I love that he's like, if I don't do well in this exam, Hirano's going to be a nightmare. And I really wish Hirano had spoken English, because he has the English textbook. And he's like, what, you can't remember? Like, I love Hirano, but I wish he'd said that in English. That would have been really funny, because that seems to be what they're studying. And Miyano's like, he does seem scary. I like that little gremlin face Miyano makes. He has like a little gremlin face in that moment. Like, yeah, Hirano can be pretty scary, by the way. And so it's his birthday, and he gives him, he's like, would you like a piece of candy, senpai? And he gives him and I like his little bookmark that's the clear, transparent one. And he just lays the sucker in his palm. And he's like, it's a sweet flavor. And I like that Sasaki's like, wait, do you even like this, Mia-chan? Why do you have this on you? Because you clearly don't like sweet things. And then he realized the whole purpose was that Miyano was going to give it to him. It wasn't that he liked it. He knew Miyano would like it. Or he knew that Sasaki would like it. It's a birthday present. You can eat it during a study break. And Sasaki's like, I'm not going to be... He's like, if I don't eat this now, I'm going to be distracted during that study break because I'll be thinking of you while I eat it. So I need to eat it right now. And so when he looks at Sasaki say that, and he remembers Kurosawa's words, and we have Sasaki with the sucker and him smiling, Miyano questions for a moment, like, do I think Sasaki's cute? Why did I think that? Like, Kurosawa's words are getting in my head. He's like, it's nothing. Never mind. I love it. He's like, why did I think he was cute for a second? He's cool. Senpai is cool. He's not cute. He's cool, damn it. This is Kurosawa's fault. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah. I love it. And Sasaki's like, I'm not saving this till study break. I love these, like, I think I might actually do good on the exams because the sucker's like rejuvenated him. He's like, your gift has helped me, Miyano. Oh my gosh. So yeah, and then they all go and take their exams. Everybody around the school is doing exams. The cat is there, just, hanging out like you do. And then I like that everybody, it shows the school's empty because everybody's taking exams. Like, there's nobody on the court, anything. We get Ogasawa for like a hot second. And I freaking love, I keep calling him Ogasawa. Ogasawara. Oga. Our boy Oga. This hot mess express that I love so much in this series. We get him for a solid 30 seconds in this entire episode. What is even happening with him? He's sitting there like his shirt unbuttoned. He's like, oh my God, it's so hot. Like sitting there, he's like, I don't get English at all. It's like, as an English teacher, I can relate. So, but what is this business? Him sitting on the desk, just like fanning his shirt out. Like, what a friggin' diva. I can't. He's like, Sasaki, how'd you do? And then he's like, Sasaki, you okay? You alive there? He's like, I think I might have actually sold my soul to a demon. Because I somehow answered every single question. And I got most of the ones for other subjects too. He's like, are you okay? Thank you. He's like, I've studied so much, I'm actually doing well in school. Oh, man. And then he kept the sucker with the word cards. He kept the sucker wrapper as like inspiration. Man, Ogasawara, what a diva. Like, we got a solid 30 seconds of him, and it's possibly one of the best parts of the episode. So yeah, so it's back to the sunflowers, I like that we get the sunflowers as a reminder of how long it's been, and just them going back and him seeing Sasaki and catching up to him, and them reminiscing and remembering the moment that they met, and how Kurosawa's been connecting them from the start, and all of that. So yeah, we get through that. And then they're about to go on summer break. And so, yeah, I'm going to break. Yeah, and I like that they're both remembering that scene and thinking the exact same thing. They're on the same wavelength. It's great. And then Sasaki, like, stopping to think about things. And then Miyano remembers when he says, I love you. And so, yeah. And he's trying to he's like, I need to hurry up and give him a response. And I'm like, you don't have to hurry up and give him a response. You can take your time. But he's like, if I keep holding it off, it's like I'm just leading him on. I need to tell him something. Even if I'm not decided, I need to say something to him. Otherwise, he's not going to know, and it's going to be summer break. And if we don't see each other over summer break, then he's just going to be sitting there wondering what's my answer going to be. And I don't want him to think that while we're gone for a couple months. So I like that he decides to give him some sort of answer, but bless our boy. He's like, what am I going to do? And I like Tashiro's like, oh no, Miyano's dead. He's passed out from the heat. And Tashiro's like, yeah, I'm worried. I should be studying more. I got to cram 10 more minutes. And then Kurosawa's trying to figure it out. He's trying to put the pieces together. But then this phase of Miyano, like him like shaking with the thing, he's like, BL doesn't have the same meaning for me. He's like so tore up about this. Like he can't even look to manga for an escape. He's like, I've got too much on my mind. And Kurosawa's like, but isn't manga your escape from studying? And he's like, yes, and now I can't even take a break from studying because I'm too freaked out about it. It's like, huh. And so he's like, I can't read manga involving students, but pieces about working adults are okay. So anytime he reads a manga or BL about students, he gets too flustered because he thinks of him and Sasaki. So if you read stuff about adults, that's somewhat removed. It's a different genre. And I get that they're both like, what's a genre? And it's a type of writing. It's a category. Right? And so I like that Kurosawa goes into this big spiel about how his girlfriend reads manga too. He's like, I saw those labels on the shelves when I went to pick up a manga my girlfriend wanted, so I memorized them. Like, of course he did. He's the perfect boyfriend. Kurosawa is out to be the perfect boyfriend. And I love that Miyano's like, she's got you running errands now. Shocker. Like, surprise, surprise. Mm-hmm. And then he says she seems pretty picky about the setting. And then Miyano's like, well, what type of setting does she like? And he's like, there must be hotties. There has to be hot characters or I'm not reading it. And she's in an Idols guy kick. Okay, so she's into Idol series. All right, interesting. And Miyano's like, doesn't sound like my cup of tea, but to each their own, right? And so then they all start the exams. And again, like just showing how empty the school is. And then we get this hot guy in the cardigan, in the periwinkle cardigan, this hot guy next to the window. I want a spin-off series with him. And then we cut back to that cat. Mm-hmm. And so everybody's done with exams, stretching, getting out of there. And so Tasha was like, I heard you talking about hotties earlier. Was it a topic of conversation? And then Kurosawa was like, we're talking about me and my girlfriend. You were thinking about that during a test? Are you good? He's like, bragging about your girlfriend, you stupid hottie. And Kurosawa says, I don't know that I qualify as a hottie. So he doesn't think that much. He's like, but she did say hotties are the best because they can be both semeis or ukes. Oh, so if they're hot, they could be either one, according to her. Interesting. So then from there, he's like, so maybe she agreed to date me at least partly because of my looks? And he gets all the sparkles around him. He's like, wait. Was she dating me because I'm good looking? I never thought about this. And I love these, like, I'll have to remember to thank my folks. Like, thanks, Mom and Dad, for having a hot kid. Kurosawa, you're ridiculous. And then, yeah, Tashiro was like, I can't believe you admitted that. And he's like, thanks for helping me realize, Tashiro, that I am good looking. It's like, oh my God. And then Miyano is saying, it's so hard because sometimes the series is conversations happening at the same time. And Miyano's saying, doesn't he realize that means she fantasizes about him with other guys? Like, that's what she's getting at. Kind of like what Ogasawara's girlfriend's doing. And then Tashiro says what's inside is way more important than the outside, though. And then Kurosawa's like, well, that's nice of you. You're a good guy, Tashiro. And he's like, that sounded really insincere. He's like, take Miyano. He's a pretty cute in the looks department, but he's still a guy. Just because he's got a nice face doesn't mean he'd be somebody I'd want to date. And that is a backhanded compliment. It's like, look at him. He's cute for a guy, but I don't want to date him. It's like, that's a backhanded compliment. But that does bring up a really good point. And that Tashiro is saying, like, just because you're good looking doesn't mean that I'm going to date you. Right? So that's a big thing too. I'm glad Tashiro brings that up because he's like, just because you're attractive aesthetically doesn't mean that I want to be your boyfriend or girlfriend. Right? He's like, I didn't mean it like that. He's like, you're a great guy. And Tashiro's like trying to help. He's like, I'm saying beauty is more than skin deep. And Kurosawa's like, so now you're being a great wingman and reminding me that my girlfriend fell for me both inside and out. Kurosawa's like, I'm having the best day ever. I found out I'm hot. My girlfriend loves me for who I am and that I'm hot. Like, and Tashiro's like, well, that's a great way to look at it. But yeah. So then Miyano, though, thinking about those words as they're like changing their shoes and everything and exams being over. He's like, he's pretty cute, but he's still a guy. Just because he's got a nice face doesn't mean he's someone I'd want to date. And Miyano's like, my face? But then he remembers that Sasaki said that I'm crazy about all of you, not just your face. So he's like, So Miyano's he's still struggling with this, which is natural, right? And that's when he bumps into Sasaki, of all people. Go figure. And then Sasaki, I thought he was checking his temperature. To see if he had a fever or something since he bumped into him. But he never says anything about it. So So I don't know if that was the case or not, or if he just literally wanted to make that excuse. If he was doing that to like block him from running into him again, and he just used that as an excuse to touch him. Maybe. It seems like it was. He just really wanted to touch him. And then they're like, man, Senpai is huge. That's what happens when you're over 180 centimeters. I'm jealous. So, again, just establishing like physical appearance and it tying to your impression of someone. And then, yeah, Miyano's like, I don't understand him, but I don't want to run away just because I don't understand. Which I'm like, good. You're not just going to run away just because you don't get it. You want to take the time to understand him more. That's kind of one of the things I got out of their conversation at the end, that he wanted to take time to know Sasaki in a better context. Right? And so then, yeah. And then, of course, Sasaki by himself, being sad, and our boy is whipped. Our boy he's got it bad. Like, he went out of his way just to touch Miyano just so he could touch him. It's like, oh, honey. He's like, yep, I got it bad. I don't know what to do about it. So, yeah. So everybody's done with exams. Exams are over. It's great. And then they're all going home, and it's raining, of course. And, of course, Miyano did not bring an umbrella, but Sasaki did. So, yeah. We have to share an umbrella again. Fancy that. And I like that these guys are not petty enough that they wouldn't do... You know, in some series, I will have to say, what I like about this series, too, is that in some series, when the main character would be struggling with this internal discussion of their sexuality and do I like Sasaki, do I not like Sasaki? In another series, I could totally see Miyano being like, I can't share an umbrella with him because that might mean that I like him and I'm not sure about my feelings yet. Like, I can see him just being melodramatic and for drama's sake denying it. But he doesn't here because Sasaki is still a friend first and foremost. And he's like, no, it's fine. We can share an umbrella. It's cool. And Sasaki is respectful enough that Miyano trusts him that he can do that and it's not going to be a big deal. Like, the fact that Sasaki respects him and trusts him and doesn't try to force him into anything, I think is what helps him go through with that and feel okay about it. So, yeah. So then we have... So he's like, oh, he's in a good mood today. So he's like, maybe today's the day I should talk to him since he's in a good mood. And then them going up the stairs and them talking about, Sasaki talking about how him and Hirano and Ogasawara really don't have any classes together, which is really sad. They're third years, they don't get to see each other as often. That is really sad. I felt bad for him then. And then I like Ogasawara was panicking because he couldn't have one of us tutor him this year. And I love that he's just like sitting there being a hot mess. Like, just what a panic. What a train. And then him just collapsing, just under pressure. I mean, I was like, did things work out? And he's like, well, he got his girlfriend to tutor him. It sounds like Ogasawara senpai and his girlfriend get along despite everything. Yeah, despite their arguments over the most ridiculous, minor, trivial things, they definitely get along, right? And so I like this. Miyano is seeing these different relationships come out into the open. So he's seeing how Kurosawa is with his girlfriend. He's seeing how Ogasawara and his girlfriend are. It's giving him more perspectives that these relationships are not cookie cutter, right? And so then, yeah, he's like, we don't get opportunities to talk like this that often, which is why he wants to say something. He's like, we don't get a lot of chances to talk like this one-on-one. And that's when he like gets the resolve, like him grabbing the bag strap. He's like, okay, I'm going to say something. And then Sasaki's like, okay, the rain stopped. And so I got a little worried at this conversation at first because I was like, where are we going with this? And I was afraid that it was going to turn into a rejection. And for a split second, it seems like it's going that way. And I'm like, and then it kind of doesn't. But this conversation. So he says, do you like men? And I was expecting him to say yes. I really was expecting Sasaki to say yes. But he doesn't. He says, I don't think so, really. Why? And Miyano's like, well, I'm a guy. You said you loved me, so... He's like, that's a good question. It's just that when I'm with you, I get this overwhelming feeling of, man, I really love him. So it may be that Sasaki's like pansexual. You know, it may be that Sasaki doesn't really care. He just loves someone regardless of if they're a man or a woman. It's weird. There's like a sect of Japanese culture where there are straight men that it's like a big thing in a lot of BL series where there is the man that has been straight the entire series, but he falls in love with one man and he's like, I don't like men except you. And it's kind of like a demisexual thing, but it's not. I guess it kind of is, but it's very exclusive. I feel like it's a very Japanese culture thing, and I don't know it happening in other cultures. So in the US, it's not really, it's like you're pansexual. If gender is not a factor in it, then you're pansexual. And if you like both men and women, then you're bisexual. So it's the labeling of it, it's so hard, but I felt more pansexual vibes with Sasaki when he's like, when I'm with you, I get this overwhelming feeling of, man, I really love him. And it's not just a platonic love though, because he wants to touch him and he wants to reach out and be with him and hug him and things. Like there's some physicality to it. So it's interesting, right? And I'm glad these guys are talking it out and just putting it out there. He's like, it's hard to put into words. Yeah, he's like, it shows Miyano that Sasaki's still trying to figure it out as well. Like it's not that Sasaki likes men and he's just pushing that onto Miyano. It's like, he's like, I'm kind of in the same boat you are. I don't know what these feelings mean either, but I have them. And Sasaki's like, I'm acting on them. So what else can I do? You know? And then that's when Miyano's like, well, I'm kind of in the same boat too. He's like, you're really putting thought into this, aren't you? Thank you. And he says, thank you. He's like, I am thinking it over. He says, it's just, I don't know how to think about it. He's like, I've never been in this position before. And he's saying, I said I didn't want a BL experience to happen to me, which is exactly what's happening, kind of. And he says that hasn't changed. And so I got a little nervous when he started this monologue here. He's like, I like you, but I think that it's just that I look up to you. And I thought he was going to reject him. And I was like, I was getting really worried. I was like, don't reject him. I was like, ugh. He's like, but if I had more courage, if I was more like senpai. Because yeah, he says that maybe I would have been able to keep Kurosawa from getting hurt. But that's not the point. I think Sasaki's courageous in just putting it all out there. He says, I like BL, but I've never thought about myself in that context, which is a very valid thing. Like, you can like something and not, be in the same mindset. He's like, and I've only ever liked girls. And you can see Sasaki's face in the shadows, and I was like, He's like, I've never thought about feeling romantic love for someone of the same gender. And so when I started to actually consider it, even BL became confusing for me. Because yeah, so far he's like, I've, been reading all this stuff and I never really thought that it affected me. I was just reading it for the entertainment of it. And I liked the stories. I liked the situations these characters were in. But I was never in those situations. So it was never awkward for me because it didn't affect me. It was just, these are great stories. These are great characters. It's romantic. I like it. But he was never involved in it. And now that this has been thrown on the table, suddenly he's like, he's viewing everything in a different mindset and he doesn't know how to feel about it. And then you said that you liked me just for my face. I may have feminine features, but I'm still a boy. He's like, plus I might grow taller than you in future. He's like, I don't want you to think that you love me because I look like a girl and it's confusing for you. And while he's like giving this big spiel, Sasaki's like, don't laugh at Miyano. Don't do it. He's adorable though. It's like Sasaki is just so enamored by him, even as Miyano's having this like gut-wrenching confession. He's like, by the time I'm 50, I may not have any of my looks at all. Aww. He's like, and then I like Sasaki's just looking at him. He's like, and then I love that Miyano's like, this isn't what I want to say. Miyano's like, it's not coming out the way I want it to. He's like, I need to put it into words, but this isn't it. He's like, I don't want him to think that I'm rejecting him because that's not what this is. He's like, I'm just trying to figure things out. And he's like, what I want to tell him is the way he's tried to get to know me. Yes. And the whole time he's saying this, he has made me realize there might be other feelings inside of me. I'm like, I wish you'd just say that, but we can't have nice things besides just looking up to him. He's like, Miyano's like, I think it might be more than me just looking up to you, but I don't know how to put it into words, and I don't want to say something unless I truly mean it. So, and I love this when he has such a look of determination on his face. He's like, I want to think a little more about how I feel about you. It's so cute. And Sasaki's like, oh my God, y'all. This kid. I want to see if maybe my feelings really are the same as yours. He's like, I don't want to say I love you unless I'm sure. I've never considered this sort of thing for myself before, so I can't promise I'll figure it out. But still, and he's like, it's okay. I love Sasaki's like, it's good. I love this so much. He's like, he's like, it's not fair. The fact that you're thinking about this. He's like, think it over. No. I'm happy that you're considering this seriously, right? Because it's not a rejection, right? It's a maybe. And Miyano's like, I haven't made up my mind. He's like, I know. He's like, I'm just happy of how much thought you're putting into this. Like, you're treating it seriously. He's like, because I'm serious, right? I'm so glad that I fell in love with him. It's like, knowing he's thinking about me makes me crazy happy. Oh, Sasaki, you romantic. You romantic. He's like, I've not got an answer yet, but still, this is fine for now. He's like, I can go on summer break and be perfectly fine knowing that you're still thinking about it. It's like, our boys, our boys. I'm so glad I fell in love with him. Dude. And him laughing. Oh my God. Like just being so happy. He's happy because he's in love and because Miyano hasn't rejected him. He's considering it. And he's like, maybe you'll get taller than me and maybe you'll lose all your looks. But I'm pretty sure I'd still be in love with you then. Like, come on, Miyano! This dude! He's basically just saying, I love you for your inside and out. Oh, so take all the time you need to give me your answer. And keep lending me manga in the meantime. But I love that he's like, okay, but all this is out in the open, so just so you know, I'm going to be your senpai for now. I'm going to go back to being your senpai, and we can still hang out and be friends. But, oh right, yeah, about that. I may get a little handsy, and it's fine. I'm like, oh, I may not be able to resist touching the person I love every now and then. I'm like, oh, Sasaki. He is a little bit possessive. Just a tinge. But it's like a respectful possessive, right? He's not like, stay away from every dude. He's just, like, watching over him. Interesting. So, yeah, I don't know what we're going to get out of this. I'm curious. Miyano has put it on hold again. But he's at least told Sasaki that he's thinking about it and he's trying to figure everything out. And Sasaki, being super respectful like he is like, okay, no, it's fine. I'll let you wait. It's all good. You take as long as you need to, but I'm just happy that you're considering this and that we're kind of in the same boat trying to feel things out. But I may get a little handsy every now and then. It's nothing bad. So, it's very interesting. I'm glad that they've had this conversation this episode, and with it being the halfway point, the ball is still in Miyano's court, but I feel like Sasaki is going to be able to breathe a little bit easier, and I feel like there's not that awkward tension between them because they've both acknowledged how they feel and they've communicated with one another. Holy crap, communication. And now they can still be friends and move forward, but it's in the background there that Miyano's thinking things over. So it's just going to be when Miyano confesses to him or not. I don't know. But I'm so excited. So, oh my gosh, this was a great episode. So, I'm curious to know what you all thought down below of this episode. This was great. We're halfway through the season. Now that all the feelings are out there in the open, and now that Miyano has given Sasaki a response, it's not a yes or no. It's a maybe. But it's a contemplative maybe. I feel like from now on, the series is going to develop and progress and show us Miyano coming to terms with his feelings. I want him to talk to Ogasawara. I want him to talk to Hirano about this. We'll see if that actually happens, but I want them to communicate, and I want him to ask questions to Hirano and Ogasawara about their relationships and prior relationships that might help Miyano make a decision, because he's never been in a relationship, so he doesn't know. So, yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction and discussion, but this was a really good episode, and now I'm ready for episode 7. So we shall see, right? So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with episode 7 of Sasaki and Miyano. Bye.